working? Hello? Oh, mine's working. Sure working.
Okay. Hello?
We're going to introduce ourselves.
There we go. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Elsie Phillips, and I am a chair for the Contributor Experience SIG, and I work at Red Hat.
I'm Nikita. I'm one of the technical leads for SIG Contributor Experience, and I work at Fluid.
Oh, you need this. You need this. I have this. Hi, I'm Paris. I'm Paris and I work at Google. Been doing this for like 22 months, not 22 months, I think now.
Something like that,
Yeah, pretty accurate.
And hi, I'm Christoph Bleicher. I'm a technical lead for Contributor Experience, and I work at Red Hat.
And just to make sure that you're in the right talk, we're going to be doing an introduction to Contributor Experience today. This is our charter. Go check it out. So here's some more information, general information about our SIG. We have sub-project boards that we've implemented in the last couple of months that we are trying to keep up to date. We also have recently decided to pause our APAC meetings. But we are building out teams and roles for our SIG. We have a triage team, an events team, a marketing team, and more. So these are all great opportunities for getting involved with our SIG.
One of the sub-projects that we have right now is mentoring, and throughout this presentation, we're going to go by sub-project mostly. One of them that's near and dear to my heart is mentoring and contributor growth. I've spent the last 16 years of my life hiring engineers and making sure that all of their needs are met, being a contributor advocate. So this is something that's super, super passionate. Anytime I say the word mentoring, people sort of shudder. No, really, it's important. Like, science has said so. And I think we should listen to science. So in Kubernetes, we've decided that we're not going to do the traditional one-on-one approach that I think a lot of people are familiar with. And that traditional approach has to do with filling out a form and getting paired with someone that you don't know, and it ends up being an ambiguous relationship, and you just kind of have like little expectations, and someone gets let down. In open source, this doesn't necessarily work for a project as large as Kubernetes. However, if you have a small project and you can afford the one-on-one support, great. Kubernetes is not a for-profit company, despite all the logos. But it's not a for-profit company. These our maintainers and people who take care of this project aren't necessarily goaled into bringing people up. So we have to establish programs and processes and things that make sense for us. And what you see on the screen right now does. So we build around personas, we build around different learning styles, we build for roles with shadows. You just heard from Elsie about some of the teams that we as in Contributor Experience are building. I think one of the biggest takeaways is the release team, and that's kind of where our inspiration started. They just constantly pump out features and releases, and they do so with these humongous, powerful teams. The new contributor workshop. That is an amazing, amazing day. Shout out to Gwyn. Oh, wow, contribute, that's hot. Spelling is QA check there. One more. New contributor workshop actually just went off yesterday for Barcelona. The first one ever we did was last year in Copenhagen. Sort of 1 year anniversary, quote, quote. But yes, Gwyn, please, round of applause for Gwyn. This is so important for us because we do have the face-to-face interactions here because it does make sense here. We're here, this is what we're here for. Most of us are here for the hallway track. So it's super important that we build that environment and build it within this community here that we have face-to-face. We want to syndicate this. Gwen and so many other people have worked so hard on updating and making sure things are available. We have them on YouTube. That's scalable mentoring, and that's something that we want to continue. Here's some other stuff that we've got going on as far as mentoring is concerned. We've got speed mentoring tomorrow. I think the forum's closed, but if you see me, I can definitely get you in. We have a 7:30 a.m. session and a 3:30 p.m. session. This is also something a little face-to-face, but we try a group mentoring approach. Very cool. And then we also do SIG meet and greets at New Contributor Workshop. Again, that's another face-to-face opportunity that makes sense. And then, of course, Google Summer of Code. Huge shout out to Nahida. I'm sure everybody here heard her keynote today. If not, please, 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 please watch it. Definitely one of the best keynotes. And then, of course, meet our contributors. It's a monthly, one-time deal. Not one time, but one time a month. And it's really cool because it allows the community to ask questions in the open. And it creates that culture that's okay. And some of the questions, people DM me, meaning like they want to be anonymous. And we do this over Zoom, provide it live cast on YouTube, and it's really awesome. We've had, I think over 28 sessions, and we've had over, we get over 200 views an episode. And we really only advertise it in contributor markets. So what's next? More teams, trying to convince SIGs to build more teams because that's sort of the way to go to get them the relief that they need so that they can have shadows who watch them and kind of perform the work that they do. And then also, code-based tours, live API reviews, the stuff that makes sense that we can scale via YouTube. And then GitHub management. Christoph, another project.
So in contributor experience, a lot of what we do has to do with the tooling, the process that contributors go through to actually get their code into the code base. So one of our important sub-projects is GitHub management and the tooling that's in place. So there's been a number of things that we're actively working on. One is the reviewers and making sure that the right reviewers get to your PR and can get to your PR quickly. There's been some enhancements that we've made there. Adding in an emeritus field allows us to kind of give a hat tip to contributors that have done their time, have really earned their owner status, but may not be active anymore. So because we want to be able to get your PR to somebody who's going to be actively able to review it very quickly. We're also doing things like we recently merged a feature where if you set your GitHub user status to busy, the bot will not assign you new reviews. So it can actually take your status into account when assigning reviews out to people so that if you're a new contributor, that your PR doesn't get assigned to somebody who's on vacation or is otherwise out of the office and can't get to your PRs. We've got a couple other things that are up and coming again in that same vein of making sure that your PR, when you open a PR, that it gets to a reviewer quickly and that reviewer is able to take action on it right away. We've also been looking into automation across all of our repos. We've got 5 different organizations, around 170 or so repos across all of them. Yeah, there's a lot of different repos and a lot of different pieces to the Kubernetes project. So, but we want you to have a very consistent experience when you're contributing. That you're going to get something that recently merged is our welcome message. So if it's your very first time opening a PR against a repo, the bot will message you and say, hey, I noticed this is your first PR against this repo. And if there are specific contributing guidelines, as well as even a link to just our core contributor guide, the bot will actually tell you that so that you can see, okay, if there are extra steps that I need to go to get my PR to where it needs to be, the bot will tell you, hey, I noticed this is your first time. Make sure you check these things out. Yeah, and we're also just continuing different automation pieces to scale things out. We've got such a big organization, and there's so many different moving parts. We need the tooling to be able to take, like, the core group of volunteers. A lot of contributor experience is a volunteer workforce, and people who are passionate and committed to making sure that when you open something up in the Kubernetes community, not only is it a positive experience, but that you will get feedback on the thing that you're trying to contribute very quickly. So we're trying to scale up a lot of those automation pieces, and in things like our team management, we want to be able to delegate out access to sub-project owners to be able to get the things that they need to do done in a very quick and consistent way. So we're making strides. If you're interested in any of those automation pieces, definitely contact either me or Nikita. We're heavily involved in that area.
And these are a few of our other sub-projects, but for the sake of time, we're going to roll them all into one section. So one of our primary tasks as a SIG is to really maintain the non-GitHub community infra for the project. Our goal is to nurture the different personas that Paris was talking about earlier so that they can have the support, camaraderie, and information that they need to be successful. One of the ways that we do this is that we provide information to SIG chairs and technical leads who are a very important part of the project. We try and get them the training that they need. We send out regular emails to them. Anybody who's a SIG lead or technical chair knows that you get so much email, and there's just this barrage of information all the time, and it can be really hard to filter your email accordingly. So Paris does an awesome job of compiling the 4 or 5 things that you need to know that particular week to help yourself and your SIG be successful. And then we maintain several other communications platforms, both for the technical leads and the chairs, and then also the wider community. One of those communication channels that we manage, is the weekly community meetings that happen at 10 o'clock on Thursdays Pacific time. And during those calls, you can find any of those things: demos, release updates, timelines, special interest group updates, and other announcements. We recently also updated the community page to include more helpful information, and we want to give a big shout out to Alex Contini for her awesome work in this area. Yeah, we can clap for that.
Yeah.
She kicked butt.
Yeah.
Our other communication platforms include...
Other. 70K other.
Yeah. Slack and Discuss. So Slack is actually our second largest communication platform outside of Twitter, and that's only by 3,000.
Or 30,000 or something.
Yeah, it's not a huge number. So we have 70,000 members on Slack. And so we conjecture that it's one of the largest public Slack channels.
Don't know for sure.
Yeah, don't know for sure. It feels big. And it requires a lot of manual work to maintain. Going forward, as the community grows, we really only see the maintainership taking more time and more cycles. To counter this, Catherine Berry has sent us a lifeboat in the form of automation to make our lives easier. So huge thank you to her for being awesome. But even with that being said, it's a ton of work and a very significant chunk of time for all of those humans. So we want to thank all of our moderators, all of our awesome humans that help us grease the different communication channels that we use. And then we have, of course, events, which is what we're all here doing today. As Paris mentioned earlier, we have these awesome new contributor and current contributor workshops that tend to precede KubeCon. So I want to give a huge shout out to Jonas for leading the one yesterday, Josh for leading the one in Shanghai in a couple of months, and then Paris for leading the November one for North America. So yeah, let's do one more round of applause because those are big undertakings.
All right, contributor documentation. Honestly, this might be the most important sub-project we have, if I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that it's important because the one thing that new contributors look for or try to look for is some kind of contributor guide. Even current contributors look for developer guide information like API conventions, right? It's one of our most seen docs. I don't have analytics on that, but I feel like based on the changes that go through that document all the time, I have a feeling it's probably the most popular doc that we have in there. Nikita, would you say that's accurate? Yes, exactly. So this is a living deal. Like, this needs maintenance. I feel like we are catching errors on almost every other day basis. It's like, wow, contributor guide needs even more work. So my call to action here for everybody in the room that's listening that is not familiar with our contributor guide, it's poke holes at it, submit PRs, file issues. We expect that, and that's okay. It's so important that we have that right, though. That's the first path that people have. And if people come to us and say, hey, what's the path? We send them a link to the contributor guide. So if that information is outdated or old, then they're gonna get stuck, obviously. Same with technical documentation, it's the same issues. But I also did wanna highlight too that we do have a lot of work that's going on to make this information digestible. What I mean by that is there's been a cheat sheet, I think that George initially created, and then we've built off that and translated it a zillion times, which is so good for our global community so that they can stay abreast and feel like it's not just a team of Pacific Coast time zone folks, because it's not. The future. We've got a lot going on, y'all, and I think we will for a long time. Oh wow, are we in an airport? That was like a...
Keynote doors are now open. Please make your way to Hall 6, across the hallway for 445 stars.
I always wanted to do that on stage. Anyway, sorry about that. All right, so the future, what's that look like? I think it looks awesome. I think we have a great team of people. I think we could use another team of people. But I think that we have a great story ahead of us. We've got more automation, of course, because we want to make all of our manual lives easier. We've got more events, more face-to-face stuff at KubeCon that, like what Elsie said earlier, that promotes camaraderie. That's a big thing for us, both on communication channels as well as face-to-face. Rewards and recognition. That's something that we kind of do, I'm gonna say unofficially, if that makes sense. Reason why is we've just never necessarily put a program together. CNCF has the chop wood, carry water for all of the KubeCon projects. So we need to really take a good look at how we're rewarding all of our contributors and how we're recognizing them. So those are just some of the super important things. Also, the contributor experience survey, I think everybody in this room should fill it out. We had about 170 responses last time, and this is super important because we actually have made a lot of changes from the responses. Community meeting is a perfect example. People said that they didn't necessarily like the dev stats section. It was pretty much data and charts, and it was not necessarily digestible, I guess, for that hour. So we took it out and we filled it in with something else that people on the survey had suggested that they would like to hear. So that's just one of many of the examples of how information comes back to us and we close those loops. How you can get involved. We have weekly meetings that I would like to be bi-weekly at some point. And we have a Slack channel. We have all kinds of other fun stuff for you to get in contact with us. But we have like the automation stuff that Christoph mentioned earlier. If you love YAML, please see us. There is the teams that Elsie mentioned earlier. One of the teams that we didn't necessarily dig into was the marketing team. This is not marketing for CNCF. This is not like throwing KubeCons. Marketing meaning giving voices to the contributors and helping them out. So for instance, we're gonna spring up a blog team. They're gonna tell human stories about our contributors, their backgrounds, and why it's important. They're also gonna write about SIGs and what they do and why it's important. For instance, the first blog post that'll be out shortly, I'd say hopefully in the next 2 weeks, is gonna be about SIG scalability. And we have someone from Red Hat that's going to be interviewing the SIG scalability folks and giving more of a human touch to them and the work that they do. It's so important, the work that they do, and they should be highlighted. And they have a small team, so it will help amplify their voices. Other ways, we do have a issue board that has 140 issues, I think, the last time I checked. We do use Good First Issue label. We also use Help Wanted. So if you would like to help out and just kind of jump in, maybe like you've already been an open source contributor before, so you already know what to expect, please feel free. Plenty of people jump in that way. Or just ask. That's pretty much it.
That's our show, folks.
Questions? We wanted to try to leave some time. We could have talked about so much more, I promise. Questions, concerns, comments? I'm not gonna lie, all I heard was something about signing CLAs. Yeah, do you want to? Yep. I apologize. I'm sorry.
No problem. I thought that I'm loud. Okay, so my question was, can I sign PRs to the Kubernetes using one GitHub account, but using 2 different emails? When I last time I tried to sign CLA for second email, I get an error that I can't have 2 CLAs.
Yeah, no, I think it has to be one email. That's correct, right? Yeah. Yep.
So second question, just a moment. So to contribute with 2 different emails, I need to have 2 different GitHub accounts. Am I right?
You would have to have 2 different accounts, I think. Yep.
As of right now, as of today, that is the requirement, and it's a limitation of the automation that ties in with the Linux Foundation ID. It is something that we're working on because the current CLA bot that the Linux Foundation runs is not open source. But we're currently working with the Linux Foundation on an open source implementation of the CLA bot so that we can extend it to do those kind of things, because that is a piece of feedback that's been given to us, as well as another common one is changing employers. If you're like under a CLA under one employer and then you need to re-sign the CLA under a second employer or just transfer over to their already signed corporate CLA, it's a point of friction. And it's one that's unfortunately closed to us, and we need to just refer you directly to the Linux Foundation to try and get it resolved, because those pieces are not open source. that is something that has been under, we've been working on it for months now, and we're hoping to launch that fairly soon to update that to an open source version of the CLA bot. So if we run into issues like that, we can go and fix them ourselves.
And the Linux Foundation does have a help desk for this too. It's like helpdesk@linuxfoundation.com, something along those lines. And they're responsive as well. So if anybody out there listening has CLA issues, helpdesk@linuxfoundation.org. Any other questions? I hope to see all of you, all 8,000 of you out there in KubeCon land at the next Contributors Experience meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.